Hello, in this PHP exercise what we're going to do is look at how we can use a for loop in order to loop round the same piece of PHP code a number of different times. So up to now every piece of code has been executed only once as we've run down the code from the top of the file to the bottom of it. So we've used the if statement to control whether we do or don't execute particular pieces of code, but each piece of code has either been executed either once or not at all. So with a for loop we're going to go around the same piece of code a number of times, and we can specify the number of times that we do that. So in order to illustrate that, what we're going to do in our little shop is we're going to introduce a bit of a simplistic rating system. So here I'm asking the users to rate the various products, and then when I go to submit ratings we can see that I get a number of stars appearing that relate to how good the rating is. So the basis of this is exactly the same as the code that we've written for the shop up to this point, of just making some little changes to how we use this number. So instead of ordering this being the number of mini soap gifts sets that we actually want to order, it now becomes the rating, and that means that we can use our code from exercise 6 as a starting point for exercise 7. So if I look at what I need, I have copied index, my stars and process from my exercise 6 folder straight into exercise 7, and I've also found an appropriate symbol, in this case a little star, for my rating visual display. So if I now look at the index file in Notepad++, we can see that broadly it is the same as exercise 6. So just a change of wording here to say please rate each product on a scale of 1 to 5, and in the actual form itself change of word here from order to rate, but everything else remains the same. So having done that, I now look at my process page from exercise 6. I've deleted all the things I don't need. What I've left in here is the part of the code, the PHP code, that gets the values from the form. So that part is exactly the same as before. I'm getting the number in to these three variables. It's just that that number, because of the context, now represents a rating rather than number of products I want to order. So what I want to do now is declare the variables that I need. So I need a variable which is going to count me the number of stars that I want to display in the rating. So writing this PHP code is a bit tricky because it kind of all needs to come in one go. So I'm going to do the rating for the soap first and just essentially type a couple of things in and try and explain it as I go along. So I'm going to write a little paragraph here. So the soap rating is, and then I now need to actually display the rating, and this is where I'm going to use my for loop. So I've got a number that the user has entered in the text box next to the soap, which is called txt mini soap. So they've entered a number in there between 1 and 5. I've grabbed that number into my variable called mini soap. So what I need to do now is make a for loop, and the conditions for the for loop are inside these round brackets. So it's a bit similar to how the if statement is constructed, and there are 3 bits to my for loop. So I'm going to use a variable counter called count, and I'm going to start off by saying the first part of this is to initialize the counter. So I'm going to start off with the counter equal to 0. I now need to specify what happens. I need to specify the condition that has to be true for the for loop to keep working. So this is saying if the count is less than the number of miniso, and then the final part is each time I want to go around the loop, what do I want to happen? And each time I go around this loop, I want the count to increase by 1. So $count++ is a kind of PHP shorthand way of saying add 1 to the variable count. So I'm going to use my curly brackets to contain the code that I want to run when this for loop is valid. So just to recap, the for loop basically says I'm using my integer variable here, $count. I'm going to give it an initial value of 0. The second part of the for loop says when this is true, go around the loop. When this stops becoming true, stop going around the loop and move on to the next piece of code down here. So all the time that the count is less than the number of miniso, and then $count++ says add 1 to count each time we go around the loop. Okay, so what we're going to do now is say what do we want to happen each time we go around this loop. Well, what I want to happen is I want to echo, and I want to display an image. So standard HTML here, image source equals, and my image is called star.png. So I need to put my alternative text, so alt equals, and try to explain what that image represents, which is 1 star. And that is the end of my echo statement. So I think one of the things that's critical is that PHP is happy to work with either single quotes or double quotes for the echo, and in other cases as well. And that's really handy because I've got something in quotes already in here. So by using single quotes for the echo part and double quotes inside the HTML attribute equals value part, then this will work for me. So here we've got the SOAP rating, and I'm going to go around this loop each time the count is less than the number that the user has entered. So let's see if that will work for me. So if I go here onto my exercise, I've only got something in mini, so let's put 3 in here, submit rating, and I've got a 3-star rating for my SOAP. So the thing that's perhaps slightly confusing is that we're starting at count equals 0 and we're stopping when count gets equal to or bigger than number of miniso. So it can be a bit confusing in PHP and other programming. We often start loops with 0. So once I've got that working, I can do exactly the same thing for the other items. So change that to the gift box rating, and this thing here just needs to be changed to box. Same thing here. Change the face cream, and again here we're just going to change face cream in that variable there. Okay, so we started our paragraph here. One thing that I should have done actually is to complete the paragraph at the end of that line there. So I need to do this for each paragraph. So now I've done that, finally go back to my page, just a little quick test, and we can see that we've got everything working. So that's how we can use a for statement in order to loop round pieces of code any number of times, and we can use variables to control that by user input.